What's going on YouTube? It's Tej back again with another video, and today we continue our 2021 NFL season preview, and we're going to talk about the Los Angeles Chargers. It's going to be a fun team to watch this year, and I'm excited to kind of preview what I think this team will be at the end of this upcoming season. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you do, please hit that like button. It would help me out a ton. And if you're new to the channel, want more sports content like this, please consider subscribing. And give me your Chargers takes down in the comment section. How many wins do you think they come away with next year? Who are some X factors and some games you're looking forward to seeing the Chargers play? I'd love to have your thoughts. I respond to every comment, so let's talk about the Chargers down below. So without wasting any time, let's go ahead and jump into this. Win range 7-12, and I know that's a pretty big range. Like, I totally get it, but this team has a lot of variables that could make this into a disappointing first season for Brandon Staley. That 7-10 mark, I feel like a lot of people would deem that a disappointing season. You know, that's less wins than they had last year, or the same amount of wins that they had last year, and that was with them winning out at the end of last year. But they could go up to 12 wins. Like, I could see this team potentially knocking on the door, being one of the higher wildcard teams in the AFC. And that's because they have a superstar in the making at the quarterback position, some great playmakers on the outside, depending on Mike Williams being healthy and what we get from Josh Palmer right away. The offensive line has been repaired for the most part. We'll talk about that here in a moment. But then you shift over to the defense, and I think Brandon Staley's defense fits really well with Kenneth Murray. I expect a big second-year leap from him. Joey Bosa, obviously, if he's healthy, one of the most talented pass rushers in the game. And now that secondary starting to look really good. And if you have Derwin James back, naturally, that's a huge plus. So all that could mix together, and this team could go 12-5, and I wouldn't be shocked at all. But the other side of the coin is maybe the offensive line takes another year to fully form and come to fruition, and maybe it's a sophomore slump for Herbert, and then the defense just isn't quite there yet. Like, Brandon Staley's defense and the molding is like taking form, but just doesn't have quite the right pieces in place, and ultimately this team goes 7-10. Like, both are super likely. Overall, I have pegged them to go 9-8, and I think that's a pretty healthy mark. I mean, I think it will take some time for this defense to adjust to what Brandon Staley wants, and I'm listening to him talk on podcasts and whatnot. He's a smart guy, and he understands he's going to have to work it in, week by week, phase it in, and overall, I just think it's going to take some time. Additionally, a lot of young players that are being asked to fill in big spots, right? Like Asante Samuel Jr. is probably going to be playing a lot on the outside, and first-year corners don't always play well. I think that could be an exception with Asante Samuel Jr., just given how instinctive he is and how much his skill set relies on him being smart and reading a QB's eyes a lot like his dad. So there's definitely a chance he's pretty solid as a rookie, and he might be a good, I don't know if it's necessarily a long shot, I think he's top 5, but he could be an okay bet for defensive rookie of the year if you're looking for someone who's just not a front runner, but I do think he is in the top 5 in that category. But overall, 9-8 feels like a solid mark to put this team at. Additionally, they play in such a tough division, right? Like, Denver, even without Aaron Rodgers, has as good a roster as it gets in the NFL. Las Vegas has some pieces in place, and I think that defense is going to be significantly improved. Darren Waller's a matchup nightmare. Derek Carr has proven to be really solid under John Gruden. And then you have the Kansas City Chiefs, who, goes without saying, they are very good. So, considering that division, I think having a plus 500 record would be a good start for Brandon Staley. And again, there's a lot of young players that are still being relied on in big roles. And then one more offseason, then I think this team could really take that leap forward, especially if Denver doesn't get Aaron Rodgers. So they already might be the second best team in this division, depending on how you look at them and what your outlook on them is. But next year, after one more offseason, Brandon Staley can fully put pieces in place. That's when I think this team really could give the Chiefs a run for their money, which is crazy. But, when you have Justin Herbert, obviously that's a big plus. He's on a rookie contract. If you build this team the right way, they can give the Chiefs the heavy contest. Maybe they split this upcoming season, and that's kind of a sign of things to come. But moving on from there, realistic goal, finish over 500. I have them reaching that goal, and I think this is an overall really solid team. There's a lot of talent, so you would think that that's a very obtainable mark, but again, the division kind of gets in the way of that. And then reach goal. Maybe let's reach the AFC divisional round. If they make the playoffs right, it's going to be as a wild card team, because Kansas City's almost assuredly going to win the division, unless a lot of things, break in the favor of the Chargers. Like a Mahomes injury would probably be about all I could imagine would give the Chargers the door opening for them to win the division. But barring that, they're probably going to make it as a wild card team. But they could, be a 5 seed maybe. Maybe they're the best wild card team because they have 11 wins, 12 wins, or something like that. and they could win the wild card round and then make it to the divisional round. And I think that's a solid step in the right direction, considering where this team was at the end of the Anthony Lynn era. And I liked Anthony Lynn. I think he's a really strong character and leader of men. Overall, things just didn't come to fruition, and specifically when you look at the offensive game plan, running in situations where it just didn't make sense to take the ball out of Justin Herbert's hands, that was something you saw a lot of people talking about, both on Twitter, but also just like post-game. It was just kind of an interesting game plan they always had. Ideally, that's going to change, and we'll see what Joe Lombardi has in store. He himself is an X Factor, which, you know, we'll go ahead and take that conversation to the X Factors now, but I think this team really can make it to the divisional round. They have a lot of talent, and with a guy like Justin Herbert at quarterback, just about anything's possible. Honestly, that's what we say for Mahomes, and Herbert is not Mahomes yet, but he could take a leap this year to where he's in that stratosphere, right? Like, he could get into that territory with a really solid second season. But let's go ahead and talk about those X factors. And while we're talking about Herbert, the guy on your screen is assigned the role of keeping Herbert healthy, keeping him upright. And I think you could make an argument. I think it's Rashawn Slater and Najee Harris that right now, first-round picks, most heavily relied on for the non-QBs. Non-QBs, obviously, because Jacksonville is going to need a lot from Trevor Lawrence, and the Jets are going to need a lot out of Zach Wilson. You know, Pats with Mac Jones, Niners when we get to the Trey Lance era, and you know, so on and so forth. Bears when we get to Justin Fields, seeing him on the field. But non-QBs, Rashawn Slater is protecting a gold mine in the form of Justin Herbert, and then Najee Harris. You know, it seems like Pittsburgh really wants to just, you know, boost up that running game, and they think Harris is going to be the fixture. So I think there's an argument of non-QBs. Slater is the most heavily dependent upon first-round pick this year. But let me hear what you think about that. That's kind of, at least off the top of my head, because Jalen Waddle's a third wide receiver. You know, Jamar Chase is joining a group that already was pretty good. Micah Parsons, going to be a guy who sees the field a lot, but that's a pretty deep linebacking core in Dallas. You know, Patrick Surtain, he's in a pretty solid CB room, so, you know, his timeshare on the field is kind of interesting. Well, how much does he see the field really? And then J.C. Horn, I think maybe you throw into the category with Slater that they're going to see the field a lot and they're going to need to play a big role. That's another conversation for another day, but let me know what you think down in the comment section. But Slater, obviously, big spot here. Going to be that blindside protector, and if he does his job well, and if he was who he was in 2019 at Northwestern, I mean, this is fantastic value for the Chargers to get him at 13. And additionally, I think he is a pretty good run blocker. And right now, more fundamentally sound than Penei Sewell was. And that's what you heard in the draft, you know, lead up to the NFL draft, I should say. Sewell has that upside, but Slater has the higher floor. He's already ready to go right now. And for a Chargers team that may well be making the playoffs, it made a lot of sense that Slater would be the guy that they'd almost prefer. I could ultimately see, I don't know what their draft board looked like, but I wouldn't be shocked if Slater was their #1 tackle over Sewell, because you insert Slater at left tackle, it gives you a good shot to be better now versus in a couple of years' time with Sewell. So, obviously, big job, you know, ahead of Rashawn Slater. But overall, that offensive line being fixed up will help him out, right? Like, you bring in maybe the best center in football in Corey Linsley. And, you know, centers have a big role, specifically, you know, how and what you pick up at the line of scrimmage, making sure assignments are there. That also falls on the shoulders of Herbert. But, you know, I'm not going to get down to the nitty-gritty details. You bring in Matt Filer, Brian Bulaga, if he's healthy at the right side, pretty solid. They could use maybe a left guard. We'll see. Maybe cut day, they add another veteran. But overall, obviously, huge job ahead of Rashawn Slater. And that's, you know, you're obviously expecting your first-round pick to be pretty good. So we will see once we get to the NFL season. Number 2 is Jerry Tillery. And this is a guy who, I'm a Notre Dame fan if you didn't know. I've always thought he was super talented, and I've just been waiting for the breakout. And maybe with a 3-4 defense, I don't know exactly where they're going to put Joey Bosa. I had originally thought he was going to be going 3-4 D end, and that's what I had read. But then I hear people like the Goat House and others saying he's going to play on the edge. And if he's your outside linebacker opposite of Uchenna Nwosu, then you have Jerry Tillery play that 3-4 D end alongside next to Bosa as opposed to the opposite D end position. That's really interesting. And that could bode well and give some favorable chances for Jerry Tillery, who, again, has a lot of talent. And the weakness right now is just he doesn't feel strong enough or big enough, especially on the interior. But when you play next to Bosa, obviously the attention is going to gravitate towards him. Maybe he can come away with more favorable spots. Maybe he's also bolt-tucked. You know, everybody at this time of the year is in the best shape of their life. So we will see. But this is a guy who has the talent, right? He just needs to be put in the right spot. And, you know, playing with Brandon Staley, good defensive mind, he'll find ways to try to generate favorable chances for Tillery to win. Plus, overall, I think this defense is going to utilize how good of a blitzer Kenneth Murray is. And again, when you have additional pass rushing help in the form of, Kenneth Murray, Joey Bosa next to you, that's just helping you get more favorable chances, especially considering Murray's going to probably be blitzing up the middle. So ideally, that creates one-on-one chances for Tillery, and you'd like to see him win in those spots. But, I'll get off this high horse. I am hoping Tillery has a bounce back here, even though I'm not a Chargers fan. And last but not least, Nasir Adderley. Right, like we know Derwin James, when healthy, he might be the best safety in football. I mean, the guy is just a freak. He's great in coverage. He's great in the box. He can hit hard. You name it, he can do it. Nasir Adderley is this guy who, like, the talent has never been a problem. Like, when you see him play, you don't think he doesn't belong on the field. He just doesn't look like he's in the right position. And again, some of that might be like prior defensive schemes, maybe him not just fitting right. But it always felt like, at least in my opinion, he just was never in the right spot. And I don't know if that's necessarily him or the defense. We'll find out this year, because Brandon Staley is a smart guy, as I've said 1,000 times, but he's going to have you in the right spot, so we'll see how Adderley shapes out. But additionally, can he stay healthy? And if he is, with Derwin James, those are two athletic, hard-hitting safeties, and those are tone setters right there. So I really like the idea of that safety duo taking a step forward. One, because James is just going to hopefully be healthy and he's a stud, but I think Nasir Adderley could take a step forward and play at a level we haven't seen him yet. And if he does, that obviously bodes well, boosting up the defense overall, and that's going to be a big part of this team potentially getting over 500. And if the defense is really, really good, maybe they do get to that 12-win mark that I have at the top of their range. But let me know what you think about Nasir Adderley's game down below. Some games to watch. We'll round this video out. All blue colors. Apologies, there's a lot of blue on your screen right here. But week 2 against the Dallas Cowboys. One, anytime you play the Cowboys, it's obviously going to be something that gets talked about a lot, right? Like, whatever happens after that Dallas Cowboys LA Chargers game, it's the first thing that Get Up's going to talk about on Monday morning. So, like, you might as well just go ahead and be ready to watch this game. But it's a home game. Feels like one they could take from a really solid playoff caliber team. And if you come away with a win early on, I remember thinking back to the Phillip Rivers, the Daniel Tomlinson, John Merriman days, where the Chargers always got off to slow starts, then got hot, ironically enough, in like November, December, January. This warm weather team that would just get hot in the winter months. But if they can grab I don't want to call it a signature win, but if they can come away with a big win with a lot of eyes on it, I think that really helps this team's confidence and overall morale. Sometimes it takes a little bit of a transition period when you have a new coach and a new offensive coordinator and just going through a culture change. If they come away with a win pretty early on, people are going to buy into this team, but then also within that organization, they're going to buy in for what their goal is and what Brandon Staley and company are trying to do. So this is a game where I think that could be the catalyst for the Chargers just getting hot early on and being able to have an immediate buy-in to what this team's overall picture and vision long-term is. Also, if you beat the Dallas Cowboys playoff caliber team, that looks good on your resume. Week 8, at home again, New England Patriots. When we talk about the AFC playoff battle, this is one of those matchups that really will come down and maybe be a deciding factor for who gets in and who doesn't, right? Like, I could see both these teams going 11-6. And because the Chargers won, or because the Patriots won, that's why they're the team getting in. Or maybe that's why they're the 6th instead of the 7th seed. Overall, I feel like this game could really matter. If the Pats are as good as we think they are, and if the Chargers are as good as some think they are, this is a game that has the nature to it that could shift the playoff picture once we get later on in the season. I know it's a Week 8 game, and we like to think, Week 15, that was the deciding game. That's what held us out, or that's what got us in, or, whatever the case may be. But this is a team that you'll have a tiebreaker against, or they'll have against you. So it could definitely play a big factor down the line. Week 14, also at home. All home games. I can't believe I did that. But the New York Giants, I think this Giants pass rush is going to be better. I think Azeez Ojulari is a guy who can make an immediate impact, especially if he's healthy. And then you have Leonard Williams coming back. Dexter Lawrence fills in for that Dalvin Tomlinson role. Overall, I think the pass rush is going to be pretty good. This is going to be a good defense overall. So it's a fun matchup in the sense of, like, the Chargers have a good offense and the Giants have a intriguing defense on paper. How do they, go toe-to-toe? What kind of a chess battle does that result in? Obviously, two good young coaches, too. I really like Joe Judge, and I really like Brandon Staley. So those two guys going head-to-head, obviously something that, catches my eye. But there are also teams that right now, maybe people aren't saying that team will make the playoffs no matter what. Like, you talk about the Ravens. Like, everybody in the AFC, everyone's saying the Ravens are going to make the playoffs in the AFC. There's few and far between are saying otherwise. And in the NFC, a team like the 49ers. Most people are going to say the 49ers make the playoffs regardless of their QB position. I'm talking in generalities here, but regardless of what I'm trying to say is these two teams, the Chargers and the Giants, are not quite there, but they're on the bubble, and they each have their little cult followings of sorts that think the Chargers are going to be really, really good this year. They're going to take a huge leap forward. And then there's Giants, supporters who say, Daniel Jones can be an average to plus average QB this year. They're going to make the playoffs as well. So it feels like two teams that built very differently, but are in a similar situation in the sense that they're on the outside looking in, but there are a lot of people expecting a leap from both these organizations to make the playoffs. And this game might be the determining factor for one getting in and one not. So obviously, because they have a similar spot in my eyes, at least as of right now, this is a game that I'm looking forward to watching. And additionally, like I said, good offense, good defense, always makes for good TV. But that's going to do it for my 2021 LA Chargers season preview. Tell me what you think about the Chargers down in the comment section. What's a good win range? Who are some X factors, some games to watch? And then overall, tell me what you think about that first round conversation. Who's the most dependent upon first round rookie? I'd be interested to hear what you think about that topic. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit that like button. It would help me out a ton. And if you're new to the channel and want more sports content like this, please consider subscribing. That's going to do it for this one. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Tej, and I'm signing off.